It's easy to believe that childhood ends the moment you leave home, but your brain doesn't work that way. Long after the house, the school, or the people are gone, your mind may still be using survival strategies that were built years ago. And here's the paradox. Some of the abilities you value most today may have grown out of experiences you would never choose to relive. This isn't about romanticizing pain or suggesting that hardship is necessary for success. Many difficult childhoods leave deep emotional wounds that deserve care, support, and healing. But psychology has also discovered something more complex. The human brain is remarkably adaptive. Under certain conditions, it develops skills that are incredibly useful later in life, not because trauma is a gift, but because adaptation can sometimes look like one. Think about a child growing up in an unpredictable home. One day, everything feels normal. The next, a parent's mood changes without warning. There are no clear rules, only constant uncertainty. Over time, that child's brain begins scanning the environment for tiny signals, a change in facial expression, a different tone of voice, a door closing a little harder than usual. Years later, that same person may seem unusually observant. They notice emotional shifts before anyone else does. Friends describe them as intuitive. Coworkers say they can read a room within seconds. Psychologists often connect this pattern to hypervigilance. It develops because the brain learns that paying close attention might increase safety. The amygdala, which helps detect potential threats, becomes highly responsive. What once served as protection can later appear as emotional intelligence or sharp social awareness. But there is another side to this story. A brain that constantly searches for danger rarely gets the chance to fully relax. Many adults who grew up this way struggle to distinguish real threats from harmless situations. Their nervous system isn't broken. It's simply following instructions that once made perfect sense. Maybe you've noticed something similar in yourself. Perhaps you're the first person to sense tension during a conversation. Or maybe you feel exhausted after spending time in crowded places, even when nothing objectively stressful happened. If that sounds familiar, the question isn't, "What's wrong with me?" A more useful question might be, "When did my brain learn that staying alert was necessary?" Researchers studying childhood adversity have repeatedly found that early experiences shape the development of neural pathways involved in emotional regulation, attention, and decision-making. The brain is constantly adapting to its environment, especially during childhood when it is most flexible. That flexibility is one of its greatest strengths, but it also means difficult environments can leave lasting patterns. Another surprising adaptation involves independence. Some children discover very early that asking for help doesn't always lead to comfort. Maybe their feelings were ignored. Maybe adults were emotionally unavailable. Eventually, they stop expecting support and begin solving problems alone. As adults, these individuals often appear incredibly self-reliant. They handle crises calmly. They rarely panic. Other people admire how composed they seem under pressure. Yet psychologists point out that extreme independence can sometimes be a protective strategy rather than a personality trait. Trusting others may feel unfamiliar because the brain learned that depending on people carried emotional risk. This creates an interesting paradox. The same strength that helps someone survive difficult situations can also make close relationships feel unexpectedly uncomfortable. Another common adaptation is emotional control. Imagine a child who learns that expressing sadness, anger, or fear only creates more conflict. Gradually, emotions become quieter, not because they disappear, but because showing them feels unsafe. Years later, this person may be known as calm, logical, and steady. During emergencies, everyone looks to them for guidance. Their prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and self-control, often works hard to keep emotions organized. But emotional regulation and emotional suppression are not the same thing. Healthy regulation means recognizing emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Suppression means pushing them so far down that even you struggle to recognize what you're feeling. Many adults spend years believing they're simply not emotional, only to discover later that their feelings were never absent. They were carefully hidden by a brain trying to protect itself. One of the most fascinating findings in psychology is that adaptation is not destiny. Neural pathways change throughout life through a process called neuroplasticity. The brain is constantly updating itself based on new experiences. Safe relationships, therapy, meaningful conversations, mindfulness practices, and repeated positive experiences can slowly teach the nervous system that the world is no longer the same place it once was. That doesn't erase the past, but it changes how the brain responds to the present. This is why two people with similar childhood experiences can grow into very different adults. Genetics matter, supportive relationships matter, personality matters, timing matters. Human behavior is shaped by many interacting forces, not by a single event. Perhaps the most misunderstood part of healing is that it isn't about becoming someone completely different. It's about recognizing which parts of your personality are genuine expressions of who you are, and which parts were survival strategies created by a younger version of yourself. Sometimes, those strategies remain valuable. Your attention to detail, your resilience, your ability to stay calm under pressure may continue serving you well. Other strategies deserve an update. Constantly expecting rejection, feeling guilty for resting, believing you must handle everything alone, assuming conflict is always around the corner. Those patterns once protected you. Today, they may simply be habits your brain never realized it could release. The remarkable thing about human psychology is that your brain has been learning from your environment since the day you were born. It built mental models to help you survive. It made predictions to keep you safe. It adapted with extraordinary determination. That adaptation deserves understanding, not because suffering is something to celebrate, but because understanding your patterns gives you the power to reshape them. Maybe the greatest lesson isn't that a hard childhood gave you hidden strengths. Maybe it's that your brain never stopped trying to protect you. And once you understand why it became the person it is today, you can begin deciding, with awareness rather than survival, which parts of that story you want to carry into the future.